Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to look at how to create content in Google Sites. So you can see I've already logged into my account and I've already come to Sites, which I can do either through the waffle or sites.google.com, and I'm looking at my existing sites. So let's start one from scratch to see how that works. In the lower right hand corner, click the plus sign. The site will open up. And once it loads, you're going to get a blank site that's ready to go. And you want to name that site so that it makes sense to you. So click up here at the top. I'll just call this test site. And you'll notice that it appears both here and here. Okay, there's a slight difference. This is the name of the file that you're going to look for later in order to access the site. So this is the site name you're more or less giving the project. This is the title. And the title is what appears in the tab up at top. Okay, that's important for a website because it's also the text that will be saved if someone goes to add it to their favorites or to bookmark it. So we want to be careful about what we put here. Now generally, what I would recommend is having a two-part title. One part that identifies your site. Okay, so if it was Ramapo College, it would start with Ramapo College. If it was my website devoted to science, it might be Mr. S's Science, or whatever it is that I give it that name. So let's, whatever name I decide to give it, rather. So let's just call this Learning G Sites. But then I'm going to include a second part to that name, and I can separate them with a dash if I want, or what's called a pipe, and you get that by holding the Shift key and hitting that key above the Enter key. It's got a backslash and a vertical line on it. Sometimes that vertical line looks like it's two dashes set vertically, but don't worry about that. This is what you're going to get if you use it. And then the second part, kind of identifies the page that I'm on. So I just typed welcome up there, and you can see that this is changed up here. So if somebody bookmarks this site, that's what they're going to get. And the important thing to make this to make it a two-part site is that people may bookmark different pages within your site. And they may not revisit those bookmarks for a long period of time. So when they look at the bookmark, they should know what site it is. This is about learning Google Sites. Okay, that's the name I gave it. But then also what page within that site they bookmarked. So as an example, I might I might bookmark the bursar site or the admission site of a college or an athletics page or something. And if I have multiple bookmarks from that site, I really want to see which one is which. Now, that being said, of course, when somebody does add to their favorites or add a bookmark, they can always edit this themselves, but it's just good practice to do a thoughtful job of naming it to begin with so that perhaps people don't need to do that. Okay, this is your banner section up at the top, and you have a couple of options with that. You can see this big add logo thing is here. You don't need to do that. However, if you want to do it, let's just see if we can find a logo. So I'm going to go to image search with Google. There you go. Oop. Little mistype there. Image search with Google. And I'm going to search for, well, let's just search for anything for right now. So I have all these nice pictures here. However, a logo is generally small. Now you're welcome to try a larger picture. You should probably go to Tools and check usage rights. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say labeled for reuse, so I'm not violating somebody's copyright. I still get lots of pictures of kittens. And I could use one of these, but you can see mousing over. This is a very, very large image and not necessarily the most efficient to use. I mean, I can try it and see, but one thing I can do if I'm using these tools under image search is I can just look for a smaller image. I'm going to go with icon, and icon has limited my options significantly. If I don't see what I like, I could always bring that up to medium and see if there's more available there. and I'll at least give this a try. So let me look for something. Okay, there's one. I'm going to save that to my desktop. Okay, that's taking a lot longer than I would have liked. And then you can just add a logo. Now, I could have, the difference between upload and select is relatively minor. If I say upload, I'm going to obviously be able to go to my computer and upload a picture. See, and it did a nice job of making it smaller. It's still okay. If a picture is too large and it tries to shrink it, sometimes it doesn't work out as well, which is why it's better to get a smaller picture, but you can give either a try. Also, you can see that right now it's making the background of that entire bar white. I could have made it black. I don't like that as much because this is on a white background. Or I could say transparent, and that's going to leave it at white, but it's going to allow the background from the lower part of this banner to flow through. So maybe in this case I'll do that. Use logo color for theme. So if I click on that, it just modifies, it looks at this and gets a predominant color and just modifies this a bit. I can edit the logo. You know, I can always come back into it. I can trash this if I want. I can hit select, which is going to let me select either by a URL, which is not generally a good idea. I can search for an image, you know, straight up front. And this is nice because it will get me images that are already labeled for commercial reuse. So that's nice. I don't have to go through that other process. I can, here, there's one. And then that's up there in the corner if I wanted to use that one. Or I can also use, if I trash this, select, it'll let me go to my albums or my Google Drive, so things that I have stored there. Let me just cancel that. Go back to my original image. Okay. Next, beneath that, we have a page title. So the main idea of the page, I'm just going to put welcome in here. Notice that this block that's available to me for text, when I click on it, I have some very limited editing options. Now here, that's listed as a title. What's available to you in Google Sites is either a title, a heading, which you can see is a little smaller. Title is generally appropriate for this banner. Things on the page can be headings when you're looking to break things into sections. Subheadings, which is kind of self-explanatory, you know, a smaller section within a main section. I can do something small, which is very, very tiny, or normal text, and that would be for paragraphs. So up here in the banner, heading is the most appropriate, title is the most appropriate, and that's pretty much what you're going to keep up here in the banner. I can change the positioning of it, so I can go to left aligned, or right aligned, left aligned. For heading, very often it would be center. I can establish this as a hyperlink if I want, so if I were to click there, and let me just, best way to get an address is always to visit where you want to go. Okay, so let's just say I want this to be a link to Google for some reason, and copy that address. And the reason this is better than typing it is that I can see that this link is correct. I haven't made a typo. I'm in the correct location where I want to be. And then I could just paste that in here, apply, and it becomes underlined, and this text is now a link that brings you out there. Now that would not be the place that I would do this generally, so let's remove it. Just click on it. When you hit the trash can, you're removing the link, not the text. And the last thing I could do is I could trash it all together. Now, note also that when you click on it, you get this blue box with these handles on left or right. best way to describe this is the new Google Sites is built on a very modern system. And that system is that underlying every web page are 12 columns. Okay, so every page is made of 12 columns, and then we build content in those columns in the terms of rows. So in other words, we can put a series of rows below each other, and one row might be made up, we might combine those 12 columns to make them 2 columns. There may be 6 on the left and 6 on the right. But underneath that, we may have 3 columns, 4, 4, and 4. Okay, that takes a little getting used to. It's called the grid system. And the reason it was implemented a number of years ago was with the explosion of device types. This made it much easier to develop sites that would easily adjust themselves to different devices. So whereas computers were predominant, now you have cell phones and you have tablets, and people are watching content on their televisions on very big screens. So this method of organizing sites or formatting sites allows them to transition and look good on all those different devices. Okay, that being said, if I click on one of these handles and go to drag it, you may be able to see that underneath now you're seeing some very faint lines, and those are in actuality your 12 columns with some space between them. So if I stretch it all the way out this way, well, let's go all the way out this way, and all the way out this way, that's now a 12 column block, where that is now a 6 column block. So if I wanted to, say, align to the left in a smaller block, see, that restricts how wide it can be. Where if I stretched it out all this way, I could still align it to the left, but now I'm using all 12. So you'll get used to that as we go on, if we go on with future tutorials. The last thing to note is whenever you're in one of these tiles or rows, if you click on them, you're going to get the options to the left. So I could delete this header altogether. I'm not going to do that, but note that sometimes, in addition to delete, you will have other options that you can apply to this tile or this entire row. When you do click on it, you're going to see that any options that are available will come up. So if I click up here on this logo section, you can see that edit logo is my only option. Or if I click down on the lower part of the banner, I can change the image. So I can come in here and I can select an image. I'm going to say I don't like that background you gave me. I'd rather have this keyboard. And there you go. You can see these little twinkling stars here. It's adjusting the image to the text that's laying on top of it to make it more legible or more readable. You can click on this to undo it, but it's generally a good idea to let it do that. It's going to make it's hard to put text on top of images and have them be very legible. So it's a good idea to let this optimize for that. I can always come in here now and reset, go back to my original, get rid of the image. Again, I can upload an image. In this case, you want to find an image that is much larger. This is something that you probably want to do your Google search and use that large category or a photograph you've taken, something like that. Remember to respect copyright when you do this. And then there's also a header type option. So that using cover will make it even larger. Large banner is the default. Or actually, banner is the default. Large banner is bigger than that. And title only takes away that background and makes it narrower. So those are considerations. And they don't have to be the same on every page. So those are considerations where you have to make choices along the way. Okay, in the next video, we're going to look at how to insert more content onto the page.